Duffy exploded onto the music scene in 2008, scoring number ones all around the world and cleaning up at award shows. She was even seen as the all-conquering Adele's closest rival. But just as soon as she arrived, Duffy seemed to completely disappear back into oblivion. So what exactly did happen to the woman who was once hailed as the future of British soul, and are we ever likely to hear from her again? Amy Ann Duffy was born in Bangor, North Wales in 1984. She studied culture at college in Chester, completing 2 of the 3 years before dropping out. After appearing on the Welsh X Factor, Wow Factor, sorry to any Welsh viewers for mangling your language, she was introduced to Janet Leigh, co-founder of Rough Trade Records and manager of major 90s bands such as the Cranberries and Pulp. Leigh introduced her young protege to Bernard Butler, the former guitarist of Suede, who helped to craft Duffy's signature 60s sound and worked with her on her debut album for almost 3 years. Leigh worked on positioning the young Amy Ann Duffy for the industry and honing her sound and visual aesthetic, creating a look reminiscent of Dusty Springfield. The decision was wisely made for her to use her surname Duffy as her stage name to help differentiate her from another Amy who was dominating the music scene at the time. There was intense hype and anticipation as her career was launched in late 2007, and she was obviously a priority artist for Universal. A black and white visual aesthetic was created for Duffy to help convey the soulful and nostalgic vibe of her music. Photos were taken in natural settings to project an image of authenticity. The lightning speed of Duffy's ascent in 2008 was astounding. A virtual unknown at the end of the previous year, by March of 2008 she had a #1 single, album and was dominating charts around the world. Her debut album Rock Ferry became the biggest selling album of 2008 in the UK and went gold in the States. Mercy was the 3rd biggest selling song of that year in the UK, and it also went to #1 in 10 countries. The following year she won a Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Album. She swept the board at the 2009 Brit Awards, beating out Adele in the Best British Female category and Best Breakthrough. It's hard to imagine now that Duffy and Adele were pitted against one another, and Duffy actually got off to a much better start commercially with her first album. It's so funny how things turn out. The rivalry between the two had become so speculated upon in the media that Adele made the move to quash the rumours in her Grammys acceptance speech.
Duffy, I love you, I think you're amazing. Jonas Brothers, I love you as well.
Around this time, Duffy appeared in a Diet Coke advert. She wasn't a traditional pop star, she had been marketed intensely as an authentic songwriter, so this brand partnership felt strange to many. It really wasn't clear what the connection was between a soft drink and an authentic music artist like Duffy, and it just ended up looking like a tacky sellout. In 2010 she split with Janet Leigh, her manager who had discovered her and been so instrumental in developing her career. Why she had parted company after just 1 album with somebody who had been so instrumental in her success was confusing. She clearly must have wanted more creative control over her music and her visuals, and maybe she was annoyed at all the accusations that she was just a manufactured act and she wanted to assert her independence. But speaking to the Sunday Times in 2009, Duffy had this to say about Leigh. When I first met Janet Leigh, I was a nervous 19-year-old, stuck between a rock and a hard place. She helped me to gain confidence, became my best friend, and gave me enough money to move to London. Without her, I might never have made a record at all. Not only did Duffy part ways with her manager, she also chose not to collaborate with Bernard Butler again. So 2 people who were so instrumental to her success were now gone. Instead, she chose to work on her second album with Albert Hammond Sr., a hugely successful songwriter who had co-written classic hits such as The Air That I Breathe, Don't Turn Around, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, and One Moment in Time. He's also the father of Albert Hammond Jr., the lead guitarist in The Strokes. It was rumoured at the time that the two had written the whole album in just 3 weeks. The record experimented with disco and electro beats, but reviewers noted that it lacked the focus and cohesion of Rock Ferry. But when released in the UK at the end of 2010, the album only reached a lowly number 9, and the lead single from it, Well Well Well, only got to number 40. Considering the huge success of her debut, this was nothing short of a disaster. No follow-up single was released, and no attempts to resurrect the album were made, and the Endlessly era ended almost as soon as it began. Duffy had hinted that she had struggled with the limelight before the release of her second album. In an interview around that time, she said, "I thought about walking away, I really did. Not because I thought I'd done it, it's just that I miss the simple things in life. Life had got so complicated." In 2008, Duffy discussed her struggles with sudden fame, saying, according to Wales Online, that she was borderline on a nervous breakdown. "I used to make music when no one had heard of me and there was nothing else going on in my life. As a girl, I thought I was superhuman, but there are pressures about being public in what I do. All the doubts I have are of myself. Can I handle this? Do I want to disappear?" Nothing was really heard from Duffy for most of the 2010s, and she seemingly disappeared from the public eye without a trace. She did have a small part in the 2015 movie Legend, which starred Tom Hardy as the notorious London gangsters The Krays. Duffy played the small part of American singer Timmy Euro, and she also contributed 3 songs to the movie's soundtrack. Speaking in 2014 to the Sunday Times, her former collaborator Bernard Butler was sympathetic to Duffy despite having been let go by her a few years earlier. "She went off the rails and it all went pear-shaped for her, and maybe she brought all those problems on herself. But I always had quite a lot of sympathy for her, because she was young, from this tiny village in Wales, and she was just hurled into the fire. And everyone said, 'Don't act strange.' Why, of course she was going to go off the rails. When I was in Suede, I did the exact same thing to a certain extent. That was one of the times when I was closest to being a bit nutty, because it was a bit of a baptism of fire." In 2020, Duffy released a personal note on her website in which she wrote that she had been drugged on her birthday in a restaurant and held hostage and raped over a period of days a number of years ago, and this had been the reason why she had stepped away from the music industry. In the letter, Duffy spoke about some of the steps she had thought about taking to become anonymous. "Previously, I considered and explored human rights laws to change my name off public record and disappear to another country and maybe become a florist or something, so I could put the past behind me with a new life. Although I was almost unfindable, I daydreamed of having a different haircut, a new name, a boyfriend, and becoming completely forever forgotten. As time went on, it then became about realizing I can't keep hiding." She didn't mention the name of her attacker or when and where the attack had taken place. In 2020, Duffy released some new music quietly online. I'm sure the life of being a really big star isn't all it's cracked up to be, and considering the profound trauma Duffy has experienced, it's completely understandable that she would want to step away from the cutthroat music industry and the harsh glare of being in the public eye. Hopefully she can get back to a place of peace and enjoying her incredible natural talent once again.